Harry Edward Styles was born on February 1st, 1994 in Bromsgrove, Worcestershire, England, and grew up in the village of Holmes Chapel in Cheshire, where his life looked like that of any ordinary British kid long before millions of people were screaming his name in arenas around the world. His parents, and Twist, née Sally, and Desmond Des Styles, divorced when he was a child, and Harry and his sister Gemma mostly lived with their mother, an experience that he has often described as shaping his sensitivity and attachment to family even after fame. As a teenager, he worked part-time at the W. Mandeville Bakery in Holmes Chapel, and he also did small jobs like delivering newspapers and working in a stable, the kind of ordinary grind that made the dream of a music career seem both far away and quietly necessary. Music, however, was already central. He became the lead singer of a local band called White Eskimo, winning a school battle of the band's competition and discovering that the stage, even a small one, felt like home. Those early days, between flower-dusted dawns at the bakery and nights playing with White Eskimo, built a contrast that would define his story. The boy from a small English village who dared to imagine something bigger, even if he had no idea how he would get there. That how arrived in 2010, when his mother encouraged him to audition for the 7th series of the British TV talent show The X Factor, a decision that transformed his life and the global pop landscape. At 16, Harry stepped onto the stage first singing Train's Hey, Soul Sister. Then, after Simon Cowell's suggestion, Stevie Wonder's Isn't She Lovely, showing a mix of nerves and charm that impressed the judges but not enough to move him forward as a solo finalist. He advanced to boot camp but was eliminated, a moment that could have ended the dream if not for the producer's decision to bring him back together with 4 other young contestants, Niall Horan, Liam Payne, Lewis Tomlinson, and Zayn Malik, to form a new group. Harry suggested the name One Direction, and the 5-piece boy band returned to the competition in the group's category, mentored by Simon Cowell, quickly building a passionate fanbase despite ultimately finishing 3rd. What mattered was not the trophy, but the momentum. Cowell signed One Direction to his label, and the boys who had been individual hopefuls only months earlier were suddenly a fully formed pop phenomenon in waiting. From 2011 onward, One Direction rewrote the rules of boy band success in the social media age, turning charts, tours, and timelines into one continuous blur of growth. Their debut album, Up All Night, 2011, introduced them as cheeky but wholesome pop idols, pairing bright melodies with lyrics about young love and fun that resonated with a generation raised on YouTube and Twitter. Take Me Home, 2012, arrived barely a year later, proving they were not a one-off. The band intensified their schedule, touring relentlessly as their fanbase, Directioners, became a global force whose devotion powered record-breaking sales and sold-out arenas. With Midnight Memories, 2013, One Direction's sound edged slightly more toward rock, showcasing Harry and the group in a more mature light, while still delivering big pop hooks. The evolution continued with 4, 2014, and Made in the AM, 2015, albums that saw them experiment with more sophisticated songwriting and retro influences. Even as behind-the-scenes pressures mounted and Zayn Malik's departure in 2015 signaled that the band's first, frantic chapter was nearing its end. Through it all, Harry emerged as one of the group's most charismatic faces. The floppy curls, the dimpled smile, the easy banter, and a presence that suggested he had more to say and explore than the limited frame of a boy band could allow. In 2016, after One Direction announced a hiatus, Harry quietly prepared to redefine himself, not as a former boy band member trying to cling to old hits, but as a serious artist ready to take creative risks. Signing a solo deal with Columbia Records, he took time away from the spotlight to write and record music that reflected his own tastes, steeped in classic rock, Britpop, and singer-songwriter traditions rather than the polished dance pop of his past. The result was his self-titled debut solo album, Harry Styles, released in 2017 and introduced by the epic single Sign of the Times, a sweeping, nearly 6-minute track that blended rock balladry and emotional drama, and signaled that he was aiming for something larger than a quick radio hit. The album itself showcased a range of sounds, from tender acoustic moments to glam-tinged rock, earning positive reviews and underscoring his commitment to artistry over nostalgia. He supported the record with Harry Styles, live on tour, 2017 to 2018, performing in theaters and arenas where, for the first time, the songs, the aesthetic, and the narrative were entirely his own. Parallel to his musical reinvention, Harry stepped into acting, again choosing a path that surprised those who expected him to play it safe. His film debut came in Christopher Nolan's World War II drama Dunkirk, 2017, where he played a young British soldier in the evacuation of Allied troops from France, a role far from the playful pop persona fans knew. The film was a critical and commercial success, and Harry's performance received respectful notices that emphasized his ability to disappear into an ensemble rather than dominate it with celebrity. This choice said a lot about his ambitions. Instead of starring in an obvious music-themed movie or a light comedy built around his image, he opted for a serious director, a challenging genre, and a supporting role he had to earn. Over the following years, he continued to add acting projects, including psychological thriller and romantic drama roles that explored themes of desire, repression, and social expectations, further blurring the line between pop star and serious actor. His second solo album, Fine Line, 2019, elevated him from successful soloist to generational pop figure, fusing classic influences with modern sensibility. The record mixed psychedelic pop, rock, folk, and bright, fluid melodies into a cohesive body of work that leaned into vulnerability, heartbreak, and self-discovery rather than generic love song cliches. Songs like Adore You, Watermelon Sugar, and Falling became global hits, but beneath their catchy surfaces lay a more personal and introspective writer, one willing to address longing, confusion, and change with emotional openness. He embarked on Love on Tour, a massive world tour that, after pandemic delays, became one of the defining live experiences of the early 2020s, with arenas full of fans often dressed in bright colors, feather boas, and outfits inspired by his own stage looks. In 2021, he won his first Grammy Award for Best Pop Solo Performance, a milestone that put a formal seal of approval on what many fans and critics already believed. Harry Styles had succeeded in building a credible, distinctive solo career separate from his boy band past. The evolution continued with Harry's House, released in May 2022, an album that turned inward and explored the idea of home, both physical and emotional, through a warm, groove-driven sound palette. The record leaned into synths, soft rock, and subtle funk, with tracks that felt intimate and inviting, as if the listener were being welcomed into his private spaces and moods. Its lead single, As It Was, became one of his biggest hits and a cultural touchstone, with its bittersweet tone capturing a sense of transition and melancholy that resonated globally. Love on Tour extended into 2023, evolving into a phenomenon where each show felt like a celebration of self-expression, community, and chosen family, with Harry at the center as both performer and host. By this point, he was not just a singer promoting songs. He was the focal point of a global movement around kindness, joy, and individuality, expressed through music, fashion, and fan culture. At the same time, Harry's film career expanded with leading roles that tested his range and drew media attention far beyond music circles. In projects like the psychological thriller Don't Worry Darling and the romantic drama My Policeman, he portrayed complex men wrestling with societal pressure, secrecy, and internal conflict, connecting with themes of identity and repression that have long been central to discussions around gender and sexuality. These roles sparked debate about his acting abilities and his choices, with some critics skeptical and others noting his willingness to take risks rather than stick to safe, music-adjacent cameos. Whether universally praised or not, his performances made clear that he viewed himself as an artist in multiple mediums, committed to learning publicly rather than waiting for perfection. Beyond music and film, Harry Styles has become one of the most influential fashion figures of his generation, actively challenging traditional gender boundaries in clothing. His collaborations with high-fashion brands, his love of bold prints, pearls, nail polish, and silhouettes historically coded as feminine, and his appearance in dresses and flamboyant ensembles on magazine covers reshaped public conversations about masculinity in mainstream pop. As he entered what many observers called a more sustainable fashion era, he increasingly embraced vintage pieces and reused garments, emphasizing personal style over disposable trends. This aesthetic, colorful, fluid, sometimes theatrical, was not just visual decoration. It became part of his message that people should feel free to dress and express themselves in ways that make them feel most authentically themselves. By aligning his fashion choices with values of freedom, play, and experimentation, he turned clothes into a language that many fans, especially younger ones, felt permitted them to explore their own identities. Harry's public persona is also deeply intertwined with activism and philanthropy. Even though he often resists labeling himself as a spokesperson and emphasizes kindness through action rather than slogans, he has used his tours and merchandise to support causes such as LGBTQ+ rights, anti-gun violence initiatives, and education-focused organizations. For example, selling "Treat People with Kindness" t-shirts for Pride Month, with proceeds benefiting GLSEN, a group that works to create safe and inclusive schools for LGBTQ+ youth. At shows, fans regularly bring pride flags and symbols of queer identity, which he not only accepts but amplifies, helping concert spaces feel like temporary safe zones where people can be more openly themselves. He has also signaled support for movements like Black Lives Matter and March for Our Lives, adding related stickers to his guitar and speaking up about the importance of empathy and justice, even as he deliberately avoids turning his shows into political rallies. This mix of subtlety and conviction has led many to see him as a model of modern celebrity activism, less about grand speeches, more about consistent gestures, donations, and signals of solidarity. As his career moved into the mid-2020s, Harry Styles' influence continued to grow, not just in the charts, but in the broader cultural landscape of music, fashion, and identity. His discography by this time spanned his self-titled debut, Fine Line, and Harry's House, with a steady stream of hit singles and tours that confirmed his staying power beyond any single era of pop trends. The success of his tours, his Grammy win, and his crossover into film established him as one of the defining British entertainers of his generation, often compared to earlier icons who managed to blend musical reinvention with a strong visual and cultural presence. Coverage in major outlets emphasized both his status as a global superstar and his unusual ability to maintain an air of approachability, the sense that the boy from Holmes Chapel who once worked in a bakery still shaped the man leading stadium sing-alongs and red carpet premieres. In an industry where images are often rigid and short-lived, Harry's story became about fluidity and longevity, the willingness to evolve, to take risks, and to let fans grow alongside him rather than forcing everyone to stay frozen in a single moment of youth. On a personal level, Harry has kept many details of his private life intentionally guarded, choosing ambiguity over labels when it comes to his sexuality and preferring to let his work and actions speak for his values. He has repeatedly identified as a feminist and spoken about the importance of treating others with respect, urging fans and the public to move beyond rigid expectations of gender and behavior. By refusing to define himself strictly while still supporting queer communities and gender nonconformity, he has become a source of comfort and representation for many people who feel like they exist outside traditional boxes. This strategy has attracted criticism from some who want clearer declarations, but for others, his stance mirrors their own reality. Identity as a spectrum, expression as evolving, and labels as optional rather than mandatory. In interviews, he often returns to a simple core idea that kindness, curiosity, and openness matter more than classification, tying his personal philosophy back to the phrase that has become almost synonymous with his name: treat people with kindness. Looking at Harry Styles' journey as a whole, what emerges is a narrative of transformation and continuity. The ordinary teenager transformed into a global star, yet still driven by the same love of singing and connection that first pushed him on stage. From the X Factor audition room to the heights of boy band superstardom, from the risky step into a rock-influenced solo career to ambitious forays into acting and fashion, each chapter shows a willingness to shed skins while keeping his core intact. He has turned concerts into celebrations of individuality, wardrobes into arguments for freedom, and pop songs into vessels for shared experience, all while navigating the pressures of fame in an age of constant visibility. For fans, his life story is not just about chart positions or awards. It is about the idea that someone can come from a small village, face the usual mix of family changes and teenage uncertainty, and, through talent, timing, and resilience, build a world where countless others feel seen. In that sense, Harry Styles' biography remains unfinished, but its central theme is already clear: a commitment to evolving with grace, to expanding what pop stardom can look like, and to making kindness not just a slogan but a guiding principle.